Welcome to Smart, Amazing Conversations with Dr. Nancy, a podcast that takes a look at stories of life and leadership for smart, amazing women and men like you.
The way I can give support to the world right now is by showing up. The most important thing is don't think just that you have to bring anything. Bring yourself, show up.
If you are in a position of leadership and a position of management, bring women along with you.
Supporting women is Dr. Nancy's passion and her purpose, and talking with other women and men who promote women's leadership is one of her favorite things to do.
I've yet to meet a woman who did not know what she really wanted. She was just either afraid to ask the questions or she was afraid of what the answers meant.
Their stories connect us and help us understand that the possibilities are endless if we support each other and lift other women up.
Trust is created by persistent identity. I show up in my conversations. I build relationships. I show up as myself time and time and time again. And trust is built. It's one conversation at a time.
Gwyn Lurie began her career as a journalist for ABC News in New York. After producing the award-winning documentary Voices from the Attic, the story of her family's years of hiding during the Holocaust, she transitioned from news to the entertainment industry, working in executive roles at 20th Century Fox and Interscope Entertainment's feature film division. She picked up screenwriting and adaptation and worked for 2 decades on projects such as the 2016 feature film 9 Lives, starring Kevin Spacey and Jennifer Garner, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Gwyn is a driving force in the community of Santa Barbara, California, having served in roles across the community from the MUS School Board to co-chairing Santa Barbara's Human Rights Watch Committee. In 2019, Gwyn raised capital through local investors to purchase the Montecito Journal and founded the Montecito Journal Media Group, for which she currently serves as CEO and executive editor. She also co-founded the Giving List Santa Barbara, the Giving List Los Angeles, the Giving List Bay Area, and most recently, the Giving List Women, an international project that promotes intersectional feminist philanthropy. Now here's Dr. Nancy and her guest, Gwyn Lurie.
First of all, I want to start by saying welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you. Tell me about you. How did you get to be you? I'm talking to you today, but you've gone through many, many journeys. You know, the CEO of the Montecito Journal Group, co-founder, the CEO of the Giving List Women. You know, you're a screenwriter, you're a public servant, you're an advocate, and now the inaugural Giving List Women Summit. But you have gone through journeys to get where you are. You know, women look at each other, and I would look at you. You're beautiful, you're talented, and we start to compare ourselves. But when we really start to tell our stories about who we are, then we realize that we're more alike than we're different. So how'd you get to be you? What took place for you to be here today?
Well, that's a hard question, but a good question. I have to start back from where I come from, which is I am the daughter of 2 amazing people. My mother was a Holocaust survivor, and she lost most of her family during the Second World War. And my father was an amazing, just human. So that's where I come from. I have 2 siblings. I grew up in Los Angeles. I went to UCLA as an undergraduate. And I think I was always very interested in, I was always that person who raised their hand to do the thing. And I have a feeling, Dr. Nancy, that you relate to that. And so I ran for, honestly, I think I joke, my family jokes that it was more of a disease than anything, because I think I ran for office every year since 4th grade, until I was a senior at UCLA, where I ran for student body president and won. And the year I was in office was the year that we had all of the protests over apartheid. And that was 1984, 85. And, not unlike what's going on campuses today, although very different subject. We took over the administration building and we put up tents and we protested, and I was flown to Washington to be on Face the Nation to talk about it with other students. But so it was kind of our moment, and a moment that you felt like we really do have a voice, even though it's very easy, I think, sometimes to feel like we don't, because it's a big, complicated, bureaucratic, not always fair world, as we know. But I never had a sense of being less as a woman, or that I would be treated less as a woman, until I graduated college. And then I did graduate work at Oxford in international affairs, and then ended up working for ABC News for a number of years in New York City. And it was there that two things happened. I had a wonderful experience, and I worked with a lot of men who were inappropriate. And I don't know anyone who didn't. It's not a unique story, but it was certainly one that shaped the way I came to understand what power is, and what it looks like, and what abuse of power is, and what it looks like. And so that was very edifying. And I then, when I took a leave of absence from ABC News, sort of at the moment something sort of difficult happened in that regard. And I ended up living in Central America for 6 months and doing some reporting there, and worked on a documentary about my family story. Went to Eastern Europe and found the family that had hid my family during the Second World War. And so worked on that with a bunch of other family members, actually. And then I moved back to Los Angeles, and I'm giving you this sort of linear thing, but I'm almost done. And I
love it. Keep going. Keep going.
I moved back to Los Angeles, and I got a job in show business as an executive at Fox, and then at a company called Interscope. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years in the movie business, but first in the movie television business, and then in the feature film business. And I realized, in the first few years, that what I really wanted to do was tell stories. And so I told my bosses that I was going to leave and go write a movie. And they said, well, what are you going to write? And I told them. They said, well, write it for us. So I had a very easy first chance to go write. I shouldn't say easy, but it was cushy, because I knew I was going to get paid to do it. So that was nice. And having supported myself since I graduated from college, that was important. I did not have a big fancy net under me. So that was my story. And I wrote movies for 20 years, wrote scripts and some movies. Some of the scripts became movies. And
you had some very good movies. Music Never Stopped. The music, 9 Lives. I mean, you had some wonderful movies and screenwriting background. So yeah, now you are a multifaceted, amazing person. So man, your credentials just, again. But here you're coming into the public service, and then you come into the giving list. I mean, how did you make that transition? Because again, I hear what you're saying, because I too came up the ranks with the men women thing and women thing. Again, Women Connect for Good was basically founded because I wanted women to support other women, and I was finding less women in my community that were actually supporting me, and that was in the workplace, that was in the community. But again, everybody has a reason for the things they end up doing. And you also, again, went through many different backgrounds and places where women were in some ways evolving and were being challenged. But again, how did you make that transition? That, again, one of your questions was, how did you evolve to working with girls and women? How did that happen?
Well, so we moved up to Santa Barbara. We bought our home in 2003. We moved up here full time in 2009 when my kids started school. And I ended up working for the school board, for the Montecito Union School Board, and served on the school board for 8 years. Yeah. And I was sort of I was still writing in show business, but I was a little over the whole thing. And I sort of wanted to do something that felt more meaningful to me and like I was using more of my whole self. And I heard that someone, or that the owner of our local newspaper was selling the newspaper. And we had just hired a new superintendent, and I had put the owner of the paper together with the superintendent, and the owner of the paper said, this is my predecessor, said, well, I'm not going to be the head of the paper anymore. I'm selling it. And I sort of blurted out, who are you selling it to? I wish I knew you were selling the newspaper. And I don't even know why I said that, except for that this was during the first Trump administration. And I think I just felt like local news mattered so much. And, I lived in a community that had endorsed him for president. And I felt very strongly like my own personal feeling was that he was not good for this country as president. And so that felt a little weird to me. Anyway, long story short, he had a buyer, but that fell out. And I ended up putting together a team of investors to buy the newspaper, which was very smart in retrospect, inadvertently smart. Sometimes we do things that are inadvertently smart, because I got about 30 investors, and it really gave me a team of supporters, as opposed to coming in on my own and having people go, well, who are you to run a newspaper? And suddenly it felt like a community newspaper, because there were all these people who had been here for so long. And one of the first things I noticed was that just upon moving here, you can't live here and not see what a big part philanthropy plays. That people here, the thing I love about this community is that people come from everywhere. It's not just LA. It's not just the Bay Area. It's not just New York. It's not kind of a rah-rah this place, because people come from everywhere and they have roots everywhere, and roots in different businesses and different backgrounds. So, but there are more nonprofits per capita here than any county in the country, which was very interesting for me to learn. And I thought, and from having served on a number of boards, and I had co-chaired Human Rights Watch here for a few years, the one thing that I sort of learned over the years is that nonprofits are not always great at telling their own stories, and that philanthropists don't always do a lot of due diligence, that a lot of giving is low-hanging fruit. It's who are your friends, what dinners are you invited to? And I thought, what if and my partner and I talked about this, and we both, in all fairness, came up with this idea together. What if we published a book that told the stories of local nonprofits in a powerful way? Because that is at my core what I think of myself as a storyteller.
Gwyn, let me just jump in for 1 minute. I don't call them social profits. I call them 501c3 or social profit. I think, I mean, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but the point is, I think the more we understand the significance of the 501c3, and if they all went away, for example, Montecito, where would Montecito be if all those 501c3 disappeared? I mean, Montecito wouldn't be able to function. There's no doubt about it. And that's true in our nation. All the 501c, and the NFL is a 501c3, believe it or not. But again, you're absolutely correct. Montecito is probably one of the most philanthropic communities I've ever been in. So continue.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think social profits is a good one. I like for progress too. Progress.
Let's just change.
But yeah, totally agree with that. And so we started the book in Santa Barbara, and a lot of organizations raised a lot of money, and in some cases 6 figures from the first book. And so we expanded.
I have it.
Yay. Yeah, so we expanded to the Giving List Bay Area and the Giving List Los Angeles. And so, for the last 4 years, we've raised millions of dollars for nonprofits. But a couple of years ago, I got a call from a woman in the Bay Area who is now the chair of an organization called Women Moving Millions. And she's also a big philanthropist and supporter of women and girls. And she called me and said, or she called the office, and my partner threw the phone at me because I was a woman. And I say lovingly, or through the phone to me. And she said, we love your book. We use it for our philanthropy. Would you ever consider doing a giving list women? And that was sort of the first time I had thought about really focusing this effort on women. And the next 2 years, I spent really understanding how meaningful that would be, that less than 2% of all philanthropic dollars go towards organizations that focus on women and girls. But more importantly, that women and girls really are the most powerful lever for change across the board.
Absolutely.
And there's other things too that I've learned throughout this process. First and foremost,
go ahead.
Well,
I'm also involved with I've been involved with Women Moving Millions also. So Mona Sin and I became very, very good friends, and she's Equality Now. She's absolutely amazing. Well, your whole group of women that were invited to this summit just was star-studded philanthropists that, again, I think we there's a lot more of us out there, and when we connect with each other, it's absolutely it's joyful. It's absolutely joyful. And of course, being a partner with the summit, Women Connect for Good, we were thrilled to be a partner, and we'll want to continue that. But again, the evolution is what we continue to have. And I was also at Mount St. Mary's University for the status of women and girls. We had over 600 people attend that function, and it was probably the most positive, most again, that just the energy in that room that we know. Well, not only 2%, less than 2% goes to girls and women's funds, but less than 2% go to women investing as well. So there's two problems.
Right. That's absolutely right. And as you know, financial security is key to women having choices, to women being able to better their lives, to being able to better their families' lives, to all the things that you know well. But you said something at the beginning about wanting to get women to support other women. And I think that is really important. And one of the couple of the things that have really strongly occurred to me over the course of this process is, number one, that leadership is not an office, and it's not a job, and it's not a bank account. No. That leadership is a way of being in the world, and that we all have a responsibility to be leaders and to move the world in the right direction. And the other thing is that patriarchy is not just about men. Patriarchy is a way of leading and a way of being in the world that we've all learned because men have been in charge, which is why we call it patriarchy. But there are many women who have taken on patriarchal leadership qualities because they've had to, or it's what they've learned, or that's what's been modeled. Yeah. But I think it's really important to bring men and women together in this process of looking at leadership differently and letting women model that, because I think
we can't be what we can't see, what we can't read about, and what we can't hear about. And that's been the whole issue, is that, again, some of the role models for women have not been very positive, and it's been maybe more aggressive or submissive. But finding that, I would like to think leadership also is about relationships. And those are once you've found those relationships, and I think that's what the Giving List Summit was about, was not only exchanging lots of great information and possible networks and opportunities to share resources, but you were building relationships. They last a lot longer than other things, because if how can you help? How can I help? How can I help you? But those are based on relationships. So I think there's lots of things that we have to consider, especially when it comes to leadership.
Well, I completely agree with you, and I look forward to sitting down and collaborating with you offline as well, because first of all, we were so grateful to have you as a partner. I'm so happy that you want to remain our partner, and I think a number of our partners do, which is very telling. And I think that's because what we are trying to build is a network of networks. We all work very hard in our silos.
Well, the good news is, Gwen, now you're part of our community, because the Lift Women Up campaign, we are all about partnerships. We are all about collaborations. I mean, you can go on our website right now, and see all the collaborators.
I know.
That's
Yeah.
that's the only way we function. We don't
Yeah.
function in silos. The silos are gone. They don't exist anymore. We are all about, if I talk to you, I talk to an organization, I say, okay, we're going to help you, and we're going to support you. We're going to help you toot your horn. And that's the other thing. Women have to toot our horns. We have to go out there and tell our stories, and tell each one of us, each other, who we are. And I think that was the great thing about the summit, is that you had people exchanging. You said you're a storyteller, but when we share our stories with each other, we find that background. We find that reason why we truly are working with women and girls, because we were a girl. We were women struggling in our own careers or with other women. And it's diversity and inclusion has been part of my vocabulary for a long time as well. So and the global aspect. So we're going global. That's one of my goals, to go global. But you're doing everything that we've been doing for 12 years almost. So we're excited to find other partners to do that with.
Well, it's great. The work you've been doing is great, and it is in all of my different lanes of work. Including, by the way, when I went to live in Managua for 6 months, and, went there thinking that, I was kind of not long out of school. And, to me, the Sandinistas were the good guys and the Contras were the bad guys, and all the, and I get there and I realize they're all bad guys. Really, people just want to be seen.
Yeah.
And people want their experiences validated. And I sort of asked this question at the summit, which is, when did we get to this place where we thought we all have to agree on everything to work together? That is such an unreasonable expectation.
Well,
because
we women have been taught that we have to be liked. My grandmother my grandmother, who I was named after, Mama Nancy, I was named after her. She was Big Nancy. I was Little Nancy. But she said, I came in, I was really upset about something. She goes, oh, Nancy, did you show your petticoat? But of course, we women have been taught to be nice, be likable. That was the whole thing with Hillary. She didn't have likability, this denigration because of her lack of likability. We have to get past all that. And as Gloria Fell talks about, it's the power to, not the power over, the power to that we have.
Well, to get over that, but also we don't need to agree to find solutions. It's not necessary. I mean, there are so many organizations, including feminist organizations right now, that are crumbling because they can't agree on whether to call a woman or a person or a human and it's like, at the end of the day, what really matters is what we're really trying to get to. What really matters is that we have reproductive rights. Yeah. What really matters is that we have equality, and that we know that when there is more equality and equity, that GNPs are better for countries, that communities rise up, that men do better, boys do better, that it is about all of us doing better. And I think this scarcity mindset has really outlived its usefulness. We know it doesn't work. And I think at this point, people just cling to it out of fear.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I'm on 2 boards. One is the National Women's History Museum Board. I'm also I'm being voted in today for the Equal Rights Amendment Coalition, which is a group of over 300 organizations that are pushing hard past this 100-year mark to get this darn thing finally in the Constitution as the 28th Amendment. We're making some headway. We did a march from the White House to the Capitol. We spoke at the Senate, and so we're pushing hard. We're pushing hard. But
that's great. We should talk about that, because I just had a long conversation with Zakiya Thomas from the ARA Coalition and others about, wouldn't it be great if we could take a network like this and put it behind that, because that is the underpinning of everything.
And that's just joining with the coalition. That's all it is joining.
Yeah.
And like we said, there's over 200 organizations. In fact, it's Zakia, and she is the most amazing woman I've ever met. I mean, she has this presence that she walks into the room and she just commands attention. She has the power too. But again, this organization, I'm new, but I believe with even the storytelling with the National Women's History Museum. Think of all the women's shoulders that we're standing on, men and women's shoulders that we're standing on today, who have helped you and I to have this conversation.
You know, you mentioned Mona Sinha, you know, another woman, your friend and my friend and just friend of the world. I mean, her story is an amazing story. Every one of these people have amazing stories, and
finding a family and coming from India to go to school. She's got a great story. Great story.
Great story. And I was actually interested to learn how many amazing women went to Smith, which I didn't know, which has a really rich history. And
they came up with great women leaders. Also, another thing you might want to find out is that a lot of us have horses. Horses and women go together very, very nicely. I have an equestrian center out here in Somas, which is near Thousand Oaks. So horses and women, and
interesting.
You'll have to come and visit. It's I'm going to use horses for women's leadership.
And, can we do a story on that? I love that. I would love to do a magazine piece on horses and women. I think that's a great piece.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, you're doing so much, and your organization, the Giving List Women, the partnerships. It is about partnerships, and you have developed so many collaboration partnerships with just this summit alone. So, I mean, how are you feeling after this? Because Melissa Miller Young is my team leader. And she was, Tiffany Shalane stayed at my home, and also Zakia stayed there also. I wasn't there, but they all stayed there, which was fine, which was great for me. I was so happy to be able to have the house be used. But how are you feeling? Because they were so literally high. They were just like, oh my gosh, this was the best thing that has happened in so long. And they were just bubbling with energy. Tiffany couldn't stop talking about it. And Zakia, who's somewhat quiet and very demure, it was just, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And Melissa, her eyes just were like huge, because we've made so many great contacts, so many people that we're going to be networking with.
How do I feel? I feel like women always do. I feel so excited. And now all I could think about is all the work I have to do to catalyze this, and the responsibility that I have to make this everything that it can be. And I'm really excited about that. But I don't think any of us took a moment to rest on our laurels, because there's so much work to be done. So I could not be more thrilled with, in talking to Zakia on the phone the other day, she said, I walked in, I thought it would be a horse and pony show, just another horse and pony show. And that I was so happy that it wasn't. But, it was true. I think we all go to these things and we sit in a room with 1,000 women, and Michelle Obama's on the stage with Jane Fonda, and they're talking, and then everyone else is the audience. And then we go off and we learned, and they're amazing women and we're inspired, but you kind of just go back to your life. And so we really thought every person in that room could have keynoted. Every person.
Absolutely.
And, we sort of said, okay, no keynotes. There's no keynotes. Everyone's a keynoter. Everyone has to bring their experience. And the other thing is, Zakia and I were in the same dinner at Nancy Sheldon's home. And we had I looked at the dinners and I thought, you really can't be at a bad dinner here. Every one of these dinners is amazing. And I think that because the message was clean and clear, which is, how do we work together to push out this narrative that women and girls must be viewed as a lens and not a lane in giving. And that is, I think, was a very clear, simple way to put it. And I think some of the statistics shocked a lot of people. and I think there are a lot of very thoughtful philanthropists who give away a lot of money who really never thought of it that way. And if that happened in that room, you can only imagine the millions of people around the world who need to hear this and need to be pulled into this understanding that even if you love your boys, even if you love your husband, even if you want the world to be equal, even if you don't want men to feel left out, this is about lifting us all up for everybody. Yeah. And that, so I feel, that's my long way of saying, I feel great about the event. I'm excited about the book. The book is going out. We have 100 and I don't know exactly 125, 150,000 copies already.
We're getting 50 of them. We're excited. We're getting 50 of them to go to all to our board members. But
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And
we need to come out. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's really for people to understand this is going on. It is happening. And the more it happens, they've shown time and time again to statistics, companies that are run by women and women that are lifting other women up as they rise through the corporate, corporate ladder are successful. They're showing it time and time again. And of course, California is one of the few countries that are demanding and saying that any public board women have to be on. And that's the kind of thing we need. We need Mona Sinha to be making these laws that say, women need to be on boards of directors, especially public boards in every single state. And of course, educating women about being on boards, educating them about using their voices.
And, our former state senator, Hannah Beth Jackson, has been very engaged in legislation to have certain rules about number of women that need to be on boards, depending on the size of the boards, both public boards and corporate boards. And so, really important.
Well, awareness is key, education is key, and support is everything. I think I've had women come to different seminars or summits also, that the first time they walked in and actually felt, well, for example, the cohort that Alyssa Park was a part of, several women in media and entertainment were a part of, actually walked out realizing that not only did they have the support of other women in that cohort, but they actually had a support and resources that they could walk out and actually do projects with. I don't know about you, but there's things that I like to do and there's things I don't want to do. And so there's always somebody that's better than doing it than I am. So why not share the resources? Why not say, you do this, I'll do that? And, and it's so much more fun. It's more fun. It's so much.
By the way, you just described what every great director knows. A great director doesn't know how to be a cinematographer. They don't know how to be a sound person. They don't know how to be an actor, but they bring it together and they it's like they get the best team together. And that's what a president does, right? Yeah. A president is a figurehead, but his team or her team, that's what matters. Yeah. And I totally agree. And, I think that the dinner at your home and at the 11 other homes really was the magic of this event, because I think that we just don't take the time to get to know each other. And I think that we all talk about these algorithms that we are stuck in online, but those algorithms have jumped the rails into our personal lives. And we do tend to surround ourselves with people who only think about things the way we do. And it's much more comfortable, but it also is very stultifying and really is not helping our world much at all. And I do think that the secret lies in, like, the more dinners you could have with people who didn't know each other, who just hear each other's stories, I think it builds empathy in a way that really has impact long-term.
Yeah. Well, you're going to, and I guess the one thing I want to say to you today, Gwyn, is that we'll be happy. Women Connect for Good will be happy to help you promote, to educate, to create awareness. This is what we do. We've been doing this for 12 years. And everything that you're talking about, this has been the goal of Women Connect for Good, supporting other women, but it's men also. It's everybody. It's going to take us all. Every one of us. We're all, as I say, we're all in this together. So I know there's so much we could talk about more and more, but maybe this is just our first podcast. How about that?
I hope so. And let's go have tea and talk about how we can work more together. I would love that. And I'm a big, when we got into partnership with you, I read a lot about your work and you, and I just think it's fantastic what you do and amazing. And you're just one of those incredible people that I didn't know before any of this. So
if you want to talk about women and horses, you'll have to come to my equestrian center.
I love that.
And then you get to pet some horses and give them some treats and realize that horses have saved my life over and over again. But there's so much that you're doing. What are your final wonderful words of wisdom that we need to leave with that will keep us all going and doing the good fight, have the good fight, do the good challenge?
I guess I would just say that it's really easy, especially right now, to feel very overwhelmed by all of the challenges we face in this world. But I think if everyone stepped up and was their best self and just did, little things every day to push the world in the right direction, and if we were all leaders in our own lives and led with compassion and had respect for each other's journeys and a little less hubris, and a little more humility, I think there's a lot we can do. And support women and girls, whatever your category. If you're into the environment, if you're into social justice, if you're into education, if you're into, lift up women and girls, not exclusively necessarily, but first and foremost, because that is the strongest lever for change. That is the way you will move the needle the most powerfully. And everyone who gives wants to have impact. That's their number one objective, because why would you? Otherwise, you're throwing your money away. So that is a way you are guaranteed to have the most possible impact. And it's just true.
Well, one of the things we're going to get you information on is the Lift Women Up campaign. It's Lift as We Rise. So this is something, we have 52 weeks of lifting women up and helping them to lift others as well. So, you've lifted me up today, Gwyn. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I know this is just one of many, many times that we'll have great conversations. So thank you for what you do, what you've done, and what you will be doing. And I'll look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for your partnership. We really appreciate it.
You got it. Have a great day. Thank you. If you enjoy these smart, amazing conversations, please subscribe, rate, and review them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And read and enjoy more amazing stories in my books, In This Together, How Successful Women Support Each Other in Work and Life, and Leading Women, 20 Influential Women Share Their Secrets to Leadership, Business, and Life. Thank you for listening.